Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of ATRM Meets, the movie interview show brought to you by All the Right Movies. My name is Luke. In this brand new show we talk to actresses, actors, people in the movie world about their best loved films. Our regular podcast on classic and hit films, that comes out every 2 weeks, but we'll put these interviews out as and when we get them in between our classic pod. So let's get into it. Here's my conversation with our first guest of honour, Mr. Michael Rapaport.
You got a hell of a lot of cocaine here, man. I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. All I got is fucking Floyd. Need your help. Trying to kill me.
There's a female scumbag behind me with a gun tucked away in her shirt, trying to pass herself off as a hostage. And there's a special on toilet paper 4 for $1.29. It's a lot of toilet paper.
Look, I already told the doc. I locked the pen like I do every other night. The fish got out some other way.
It's sexy, you're up on stage, but other than that, you got no kind of face at all, and you're fat. But me, I've always been attractive to him.
Louis, do you understand? I can't lose my gun.
I'm gonna build you the best damn igloo you've ever seen. It's always been you and Sam. You know, he started talking to me, and I didn't want to lose that.
I'm an actor.
So here we are, first episode of All the Right Movies Meets, and I'm speaking to TV and movie star, award-winning documentary filmmaker, stand-up comic, and of course podcaster, Mr. New York himself. It is Michael Rapaport. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Big fan.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do is just take a look back at some of your films, and I've got a few questions about a few of them.
All right, let's do it.
We're going to jump off with True Romance. It's a film that we love, personal favourite. We've covered it on the show as well. So in that, it's a Tarantino script, obviously, directed by Tony Scott. Tarantino said in the past that when he writes a character, he writes each of them as if they're going to be the main character. Did you get a sense of that with your character, Dick Ritchie?
Well, I think every actor thinks they're the main character in any film. But, I mean, obviously, you know, I wasn't aware of him saying that at the time, you know, and he you know, he didn't have as many quotable things as he does now, although he was, you know, everybody was excited about working with him. But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that he says that and he applies it. You know, I mean, I think Quentin is like a modern day sort of like, you know, he's like a spokesperson for film and loving actors and loving writing and loving the process. And I'll just kind of tell you, I mean, you know, working on that movie, you know, was the only movie that I ever did that I knew was going to be good. Everybody knew it was going to be good. It just, you had a feeling with the late, great Tony Scott, his enthusiasm, his energy, his leadership, his command of a set, his respect for actors. You know, he was very, very instrumental for me because, you know, I'm a young actor and, you know, you want to try things and, you know, you want to have a voice. And I would ask him, can I try this? Can I try that? And sometimes he would say yay. Sometimes he would say nay. But he always said, keep asking, you know, he encouraged me to have a voice. And at the time, I think I was 23 or 24 years old. It meant a lot to me that he was doing that and that I knew that you were allowed to do that, because I was kind of feeling out the rules of what it is to be on a film set and to work with a big director. And, you know, you hear all these stories and all that stuff. And that'll be something that I'll always remember and appreciate about working with him, along with the fact that he was just so generous with everybody and just so encouraging. You know, the script, this was at a time where there was no email. You know, you physically read the script.
Yeah.
And the script was being passed around and everybody was excited about it off the heels of Reservoir Dogs, and Natural Born Killers had been made, I think. Natural Born Killers had been made. And you heard about that. although it didn't come out. I think that movie actually premiered. I don't remember when that movie premiered, but I know I'd heard about that. So there just was a lot of excitement about Quentin Tarantino, and and then the cast came together, and it was working with all these people that I had grown up watching, from Christian Slater to obviously Gary Oldman and Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper and everybody else that was in the film. The transition from really being a professional actor and a fan, I hadn't made that. I mean, I still very much of a fan, but at the time I was still more of a fan than I was a professional working actor. So that excitement was, it was exciting going to the set with Tom Sizemore and Chris Penn and, everybody that showed up on that set. It was just very exciting to be a part of it. You're young, it's like, your first loves. It's like your first affairs. It's like your first dates, it's your first time smelling, this kind of success. So it was really cool.
Yeah. Awesome. You kind of forget that there are that many people because I suppose like Hopper, Walken and all the big boys are in there. You forget about Chris Penn, Tom Sizemore. In the scenes that kind of you're not necessarily with those guys, and maybe at the end, the final scene, they show up. So the cast that you didn't necessarily see during the scenes of the film, did you mingle? Did you talk to them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would go to the set when I wasn't working just to be around, I'd find excuses to go to the set, or if I had to do wardrobe or something like that, I would stay and, just lurk around, like I remember just lurking around, me and the actor Kevin Corrigan. We were so excited to, meet Christopher Walken. And, I was there on set with the famous Dennis Hopper, Italian-American history scene with Christopher Walken. And, of course, James Gandolfini. He was very, very, very young actor, too. He hadn't done anything. And Patricia Arquette, who I had just seen in Indian Runner, which is a film I really like by Sean Penn.
Amazing.
I mean, so I was just around. I mean, I was extremely excited, and there was a bigger part of me that was a fan than was a professional actor. So
of course.
it was cool, and it was exciting to and of course Brad Pitt. I mean, it was it was a dope thing to be a part of.
Was there any in the cast or crew, anybody that you took particular inspiration from? Was anybody one that stood out?
Well, Kevin Corrigan and I were friends, so we were really excited. I wouldn't say I took inspiration while making the movie, or in general.
In general.
Well, I mean, obviously Christopher Walken has inspired all actors. Gary Oldman has inspired all actors. Dennis Hopper has inspired all actors. Those guys are staples of particularly, testosterone-driven actors, male actors, who are inspired by the 60s, 70s, 80s, those films, those performances. They've inspired all of us, everybody. There's not an actor who will not bring up those people and light up.
Yeah.
Like I said, just the little exchanges with them on the set, at the craft service, they're treating me like I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Val Kilmer was, in it. Samuel Jackson, was in it. I mean, this is like an exciting time for a young actor who's a real fan too. So, there wasn't any, I didn't get any, sort of interviews or with them, but I mean, these are all people that I've looked up to and been inspired from, and watched their movies, at the time over on VCR, rewinding them on VCR, rewinding the scenes of, Samuel Jackson in School Days, and then of course Jungle Fever. These were movies that I had seen beforehand, and and all the Dennis Hopper stuff and Apocalypse Now and all the Christopher Walken. I mean, that was like fucking dope. And Chris Penn and I grew up watching Chris Penn. We weren't that much different in age. I grew up watching those movies at close range and all that stuff. So it was cool to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk specifically about that roller coaster scene, if you don't mind. I've read reports that you weren't like a massive fan of roller coasters. So could you talk about your experience of filming that scene?
Yeah, I mean, I had a tough time doing the roller coaster scene. I was not, still am not. I think that was the one and only time I went on a roller coaster. I haven't been on one since, but I had a really, really, really hard time, on a loop. I was scared shit, and I was, nervous, and I didn't want to do it, and Tony Scott was like begging me to do it, and then the more scared and more freaked out I got, the more he thought it was fucking hilarious. But I remember being in the van back to LA because it was at Magic Mountain. I remember being back in the van after I had thrown up and all that stuff, and I was in the van with Patricia Arquette, and I remember like her saying it's okay, and I was like, I thought it had induced such fear and anxiety in me that I thought I was going to die. I remember being in the van after thinking I was going to die. And the funny thing is the only scenes that they reshot in True Romance are the roller coaster scenes. The footage, I think the camera was vibrating too much. But if you watch it really closely, I'm in the background. You could see some of the footage from the first day of shooting it, and then when we had to come back and shoot it again. So, it was fun. It was something I always remember. And Tony Scott just thought it was hilarious because he was like a man's man. Like he was like, he just was like, you're a pussy, but very sweet. Like very, very sweet and encouraging. Like he was dope.
He's from my part of the world, Tony Scott.
Right.
I think he was born around about like 20 miles from where I am.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I think Pinchot didn't like the roller coaster either. I think he had a terrible time with it as well.
He had a terrible time with it. Christian Slater, I remember, was fine with it. I know I was not happy with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, forget about it. I was okay when I was a kid, but right now, there's no way I would go on one.
But you're good at pulling clips. If you pull the clips of the roller coaster, you'll see, like, when I'm smiling, that was the second day. That was the reshoots. And then you'll see, like, there's one where I'm, like, all freaked out. There was no acting. Because they had given me, like, I don't know, a Xanax or some shit the second time around because I was like smiling and like, I remember just being horrified because the loop, like those roller coaster loops they're terrible.
Yeah. So what Xanax, what is that, like sedation or?
Some sort of sedation or,
right.
They gave me some sort of pill.
I mean, it's worth it. It's a great scene.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it.
So fast forward 4 years, I'm going to talk about Copland. You played Superboy in that one, Murray Babich.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point in your career, you're living in LA, is that right?
At that point, actually, I was living in New York. But I mean, I had lived in LA. I had a place in LA. But when we were doing Copland, I actually was living in New York.
Okay, cool. I mean, like on the streets of New York, what was it like kind of being back shooting in your own backyard?
Shooting Copland in New York City was a dream come true. The energy of shooting in New York City is always great.
Yeah. Now,
then, and every day before or after, New York is just it's like its own personal soundstage. And, it was again, the first day of work was the last scene of the movie. And, I got to show up on set. I had rehearsed with Sylvester Stallone, who's truly the first person who ever made me think about I actually, it didn't make me want to think about being an actor, but Rocky was the first movie that like hit me. It came out in 1976. I was 6 years old and it hit me. I understood it on an emotional level, although I couldn't articulate it. I understood it on every level. And I saw it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in all the other films. But, I got to rehearse with him and then, and then that was crazy. You have to be professional and,
but he's your idol as well, isn't he?
Idol. And then, but the first day it was Stallone, it was Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta.
Holy shit.
And, we just like any other scene, there was a lot of people around because we were at One Police Plaza, which is a busy area in New York. And, we sort of met on the set real quick, and it was during the day. It was a busy area, and we ran lines and we talked about the scene with James Mangold, and then we started shooting. But I was just like, oh shit, like this is fucking crazy. Like I was like, this is crazy, and to be with all of those guys in one day was a lot to take in. But I was also like, I was very aware, like I wasn't fanning out. Like I know that those kinds of actors, they'll only respect you if you bring your fucking best, like so yeah. I wasn't like they didn't know how exciting it was for me, but I was very excited. But I also was like, I want to I'm here to kick ass also. It's not like sports. I'm fascinated with sports when I ask players, like when they played against their idols and they'll reference talk playing against Allen Iverson or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I've done that on my podcast. This is different because you're not competing with them. You're performing with them, whether you're antagonist or protagonist with them. You're in a jazz ensemble for the day. So that jazz ensemble was an exciting group of people to be around. I was doing my thing, but I was, very well aware of who I was with and, what my goals were for the scene. And I was focused and excited, but, shooting down there and the energy of shooting in New York, particularly that movie. And there was such an excitement on that movie. And there was such an excitement for me to be in the movie I still have that kind of excitement when I go to work, especially in New York. I still have that, I'm doing something now, and we were shooting on, in Riverside Park the other day. And I still have that. I don't take it for granted. And I still get up for it. And I still am very much aware of the honor of being an actor and the appreciation for it. And there's a big part of me that's still a real fan of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing place to shoot. I've been in New York a few times, and it's just like every corner is iconic.
Right. Every corner is iconic. I mean, I just found a place this morning in the neighborhood that I've grown up in, like a little dead-end street I never saw in my life. 51 years I'm born and raised in New York City, and I just found a new street today, and I was like, oh shit.
Holy shit.
I love New York, and like I said, it's the best place to shoot a movie or a show, whatever. It's the best place to shoot a video, an Instagram video, or whatever.
Is that the thing that you're doing with Amy Schumer that you've been shooting recently?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yep.
How's it going?
It's going good. She's great. She's, not just a great performer, but, I've been very impressed with Amy Schumer as the showrunner. There's a few directors directing, the episodes, and, and I know she didn't write, she's had writers, but everything goes through her, and it's not an easy thing to have to answer everybody's questions about everything. She's very impressive. She's very talented, very impressive, and has a very
really
cool, very good disposition as being the boss on a set.
Right.
And not everybody. Like I told her, I said, I wouldn't be able to be as chill as you are on a set. Like you're fucking chill, and but in control. So I really have seen. She's dope. She's dope.
I mean, it must be tough as well. On top of everything, having to deal with the pandemic and extra restrictions and extra things that you've got to put in place because of that as well.
Yeah, all of it. The testing and the masks and the mask police, because every set we have our mask police, which they're good. We need them, and they're I know it's a thankless job.
Yeah.
But they have to remind everybody of where we've come from, because it's easy to forget, because we all want to forget what we've dealt with. But it's going well, and I'm looking forward to. I have no idea when it's coming out, but I'm sure it'll be out soon. And it's called Life and Beth, and it's a dope cast, and like I said, she's dope.
Awesome. Well, look out for it. Sounds great. I'm just gonna come back to Copland, Mike. I remember when the film came out, actually, and I remember there was a load of hype surrounding it. It was like Stallone's comeback, and he was putting on weight, and that cast is like, it's out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the big boys like De Niro and Stallone, Keitel, Liotta, but like the supporting cast: Janine Garofalo, Annabella Sciorra, Peter Berg, Robert
Edie
Patrick.
Falco.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. I think there's about 5 future Sopranos cast in there as well.
Right.
Frank Vincent's in there.
Right.
So did it feel like you were part of something special, knowing you had that cast? Because maybe some of them weren't as big names as they are now, but the talent was there. So did it feel like you were part of something special?
100%. It felt like it was part of something special. It was the golden era of the Miramax run, and the Weinsteins were incredibly good at marketing and building excitement and branding their films. And it was fun being on the set. There was a bunch of Sopranos people, a bunch of Goodfellas people, Frank Vincent, the late great Frank Vincent, my friend Edie Falco, who I've known for a long time. This is before Carmela. And, sometimes, everybody knows I don't even have to say Carmela Soprano. I feel like, people that are listening to your podcast, they know what's up. It was Like I said, it was just like, there's been a few films that I've got to work with, like True Romance and Copland, Beautiful Girls, where I got to work with people that I just have utmost respect for, and I get excited about working with them, and performing with them and getting to know them, and maybe even asking a question or two, because I'm curious,
Yeah.
Matt Dillon in Beautiful Girls. Like, that's my fucking dude. Matt Dillon was my fucking dude, so to work with him, and then like we're friends and shit, like that was cool. So, same thing with Copland and Peter Berg, and and this is before he directed his first film, and that whole crew of people, Janine Garofalo, who I had known because I did stand-up comedy with her when I first started doing stand-up comedy in like 1990. She was very, very supportive of me as a comic. It was fun, Arthur Nascarelli was in it. I mean, it was dope being in that film.
Like every scene, there's somebody new, a different face, and think, oh shit, it's that person, or it's this guy, or that girl. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
And it's a great film as well. It really stands the test of time. But it feels to me like it was like a hark back to the 70s, like drama thrillers set in New York, like the Sidney Lumet films and stuff. As soon as I started rewatching it, it felt just like that.
Definitely. It was like a New York film, and and Harvey Keitel. I mean, all those people were they were really cool. I mean, Stallone, gave me every inch of Rocky information, trivia questions. I got to ask him, everything about Rocky films. We would do Rocky lines with each other. I would do his lines,
cool.
and he would do Burgess Meredith lines. It was dope. It was cool doing it.
Have you seen the new ones? Have you seen Creed 2?
I see them all. The only one that I won't watch again is Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, it was a tough watch.
It was a tough watch, but every other one, I mean, Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, numerous times. Creed and Creed 2, I really, really, really liked, especially Creed. But I mean, Rocky, I can't say enough about that film and what it means to me. I really cannot say enough about it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's amazing. It came from nowhere, and it's a pillar of 70s cinema, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a pillar. I think it's its own building of 70s cinema.
Okay, Mike. So I'm going to move over to Deep Blue Sea. It's a different kind of film for you. This one, it's a couple of years on from Copland, and CGI plays a big part. How did that affect your performance, if at all?
Well, working on Deep Blue Sea, we were in Mexico. We were shooting at the studio that they had built for Titanic.
Right.
Every day we were in fucking water. And when we weren't actually in the water, we were wet. It was not an easy shoot. I mean, we were in these tanks filled with water, and you're making a movie. So, things go wrong with performance, things go wrong with camera, things go wrong with lighting. You have to shoot it from this angle, that. I mean, you're just in the fucking water all day long. CGI was just sort of coming about and being developed. So we never saw any sharks. You use your imagination. That was a fun shoot. Just being down in Mexico, fun and also a pain in the ass, because every time we had to cross the border, that was like a big discussion. How long did it take you to cross the border? Oh, well, I had to wait there 3 hours. Oh, well, if you leave at 6 a.m, you only have to wait like 2 hours. And, everybody wanted to go to San Diego to get this or that. But, it was cool. Samuel Jackson, obviously, at this point, he was a big fucking star.
Yeah, huge.
And he, he's just one of the best, so that was cool. LL Cool J was cool to work with because, he's LL Cool J. Like as a kid, like LL Cool J's literally part of my life, whether he knew it or not, since 1984, 1985,
Radio, that his first album?
Yeah, I mean, like that shit, like, him when he's 15 years old with the Kango and he's chest naked, like that was, I've known LL Cool J, on my radio and on my video music box since I was a kid. So he was cool. We had fun. It was fun, but it was a fucking pain in the ass, to be honest with you, shooting in that water every day. It was a motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, that was actually what I was going to ask you about. I mean, your death scene is quite a memorable one, and it is underwater. And I was looking, and I was thinking, is there any doubles in there? But it looks as though that's you for real.
No, it was me for real, but they had doubles, but they had, that was like an entire stage filled up with water. So it was like a very, very deep pool. And there's, electrical shit and there's poles. Obviously, they had safety divers because it's dangerous, like a lot of things could go wrong and you're in water. So you have to be very careful. There was a lot of safety stuff on the set. It was one time they had to pull me back up because I lost my breath or I breathe. There was like you have to hold your breath like to do the thing for the camera. It's quick takes, but you're underwater. So, things could go wrong. But most of it was me. There was definitely divers. But like I said, it was a fucking pain. Like I was like, get me the fuck out of this fucking water tank. Get me the fuck out of these wetsuits. Get me the fuck out of Tijuana. No disrespect to Tijuana, but I was down there for 4 months. I was just like, at the end, we were all like, I just want to dry out. I want to thaw out.
Well, you're becoming quite a bit of an action star at this point. Had you been in Metro?
Yeah, I had done Metro. Yes, that I was a budding action star.
Well, that's great. I mean, it doesn't get talked about as much as it should. That's a cool action film. It's got a great chase scene.
Yeah, that was fun. I was disappointed with the way that movie turned out, just because. I didn't think the director let me and Eddie Murphy be as funny as we possibly could be. And he's, again, somebody that like means the world to me. Like that guy, inspired me to, he's the person that really inspired me to want to do something in show business. Like I said, Sylvester Stallone, I didn't even want to be an actor. I wanted to actually be the character. But Eddie Murphy, I was like, I had this calendar that I had made in like 1988. I was 18. It said, the next Eddie Murphy, and it was a picture of me. Like that was my dude. So to be working with him, and living through the whole Saturday Night Live and the whole delirious red suit thing, like I was ready. Like I knew all his moves and I was feeding him the ball, but the director wanted to make a different kind of film. So,
right.
It is what it is.
Well, Eddie was, in the 80s, he was one of the biggest stars on the planet, not just film, but generally. He was huge.
Huge.
And it must have been, that's incredible to be able to work with somebody who you've idolized like that as well.
That's my guy. So it was disappointing, but, shit happens.
No, it's a good film. I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
So you've worked with quite a few big-time directors just in those kind of three films that we've talked about, Tony Scott, James Mangold, Rennie Harlin as well. So is there any that you've taken particular influence from, or I know that you've talked very eloquently about Tony Scott and highly about him, but is there any that you took particular influence from or loved working with the most?
Rennie Harlin was very great. He had a lot of energy. James Mangold, I think, he came into his own with the films later on. He was good to work with. He loved actors. Working with Woody Allen was a treat. And a pleasure. Working with Spike Lee, same thing. They have very similar style. It's kind of a hands-off, but hands-on approach. They're very encouraging of the actors. Ted Demme was cool working with the late, great Ted Demme on Beautiful Girls. Very enthusiastic, very passionate, very fun leader of the set. So, you take different... Nora Ephron was really good. The thing I learned from Nora Ephron in this movie, Lucky Numbers, which is a great script, not a great movie, but a fun movie, was it's okay to say, no, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know. Like I remember asking her something and she said a couple times, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. And that's not just a lesson that I learned on film scripts. That's a good lesson in life. It's okay to say, I don't know. I feel like people always want to have the answers to questions. And, even as a parent, you could say, I don't know, but let's figure it out. Or I don't know, let me think about it. And I remember her saying that to me a couple of times, and I thought it was really cool because directors sometimes feel the need. Well, I understand why they would. They want to answer all the questions, and sometimes they'll bullshit you and give you a quick answer. But that was something I took away from working with her. So, everybody has different styles, different temperaments as directors, and I've gotten to work with some good ones.
Cool. You worked with Woody twice, didn't you? You worked Mighty Aphrodite and
Small Time Crooks. Yep.
Love Small Time Crooks.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
So outside of acting, you have kept yourself very busy. You've done a couple of documentaries as well, When the Garden Was Eden, about the New York Knicks in the 70s. And you've done Beats, Rhymes and Life, the Tribe Called Quest doc. And the Beats, Rhymes and Life, it's an amazing documentary. And it must have been a big undertaking because it covers a lot of ground over a long period of time as well.
Yeah, making Beats, Rhymes and Life, the documentary about A Tribe Called Quest, was a fucking arduous challenge. making a documentary, I don't care if you can make a 3-minute documentary, an hour-long documentary, they're not easy. I'm sure they get easier as you continue to do them. But the Tribe doc it spanned a long period of time. It was essentially 3-4 guys' perspective on this long period of time. A lot of things happened. They grew up together, and not just from their perspectives. The group is so influential, and I wanted to do a good job. Like, I felt such a responsibility to do a good job, and I was learning as I was doing it. So it was extremely challenging. It was fun. Inevitably, I'm very proud of the movie. I think it inspired a bunch of other documentaries to be made about hip hop groups. So I'm proud of that, and I'm proud that other films have been made. And in a way, it was the first of its kind. I'm a fan of documentaries, and I'm a fan, obviously, of A Tribe Called Quest. So I wanted to make it from a fan's perspective for the most part. But then, documentary, when you're doing it in real time about real people that, are alive, the great Phife Dawg has passed on since that. You want to do justice for them and for their stories. So it was a lot. It was a lot. I wish I had made a documentary about the making of the documentary, because I think it would have been an incredible tool for young filmmakers, because I learned a lot.
Yeah, it must have been, because that's something that's in your DNA, that kind of music and that band, to be able to. I mean, that must have been dream come true dope. Kind of stuff.
It was a dream come true. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of goosebumps moments. I would call them goosebump moments while I was making it, like where I would know where you're shooting a scene and you're like, this is going to be in the movie. There was a handful of scenes where I was like, this is going to be in the movie. This is what I had imagined in my head. Yeah. But it's not like a movie where you plan that. Sometimes shit just happens. And sometimes people say things that you imagine, and sometimes people say things that you never expected when you're making a documentary. And that's the fun and the struggle of it. It ain't for the meek making documentaries. You have to be all in to do it.
So staying on hip hop for a moment, I got a bit of an out there question for you. If you had to rescore The Godfather with a hip hop album, which would you choose?
Damn, that's a good question. If I had to rescore,
or any of your any film like The Searchers or Rio Bravo or whatever,
with a hip hop album. Damn, that's a good question. If I had to rescore. Man, that's a good fucking question. I mean, I think, Nas, Illmatic could be a movie score, because it's so sort of dark and cinematic. If it's not The Godfather, it could be like Scarface or some shit like that. It really is sort of the same thing. That one would be good. I mean, damn, that's a good question. I think that some Gangstar shit would definitely work. Obviously, some Wu-Tang. Midnight Marauders could be something. That would be definitely, because it has that texture and that sound and that energy and that emotion. I think all those films have emotion, and the records I just mentioned have emotion. But that's a good question. I never got that question before.
Well, I'll give a shout out to one of the lads on All the Right Movies, Westy. That was his question. So
so he's the guy. What the fuck am I praising you for? You didn't even come up with the question.
I'm just a puppet. Any plans to move into features, Mike? Would you direct a feature?
I would love to direct a movie. I would love to direct a feature. It'd have to be the right thing. I'd have to find something that I just was totally in love with. And I would love to do it. And it would be something that if I didn't do, I would probably regret when I was older. So if everything comes together, I would want to do it, because it's something that I've always wanted to do, but I don't do it. I wouldn't want to go into it just to do it, just to write it off a bucket list. But it's definitely something I want to do.
But you've got your podcast as well, and I mean, just speaking from experience, but you put out 2 episodes at least a week.
Yup.
So I mean, that's a fucking huge commitment.
Yeah, I mean,
just straight off.
Podcasts are, the professional podcasting is it's challenging. I love doing it. I love being busy. My podcast and the way we do the podcast, it's sort of like performance art to me. But I really, I get off on doing it, and I appreciate, the success is obviously it's all based on the fans and all that stuff. But it's definitely like a performance for me, and I really like doing it.
Yeah. So would you be able to find time to add? Because it seems as though like you're the busiest person in the world.
If I directed a movie and I have to figure something out, I might have to cut it down to one a week. But I'd have a lot to say. I mean, shit, if I was doing a podcast during the Tribe Called Quest movie, fuck, man, I'm telling you, that motherfucker was hard to do. But movies are hard to make. You know, people don't understand how hard movies are to make unless you've made one or been a part of. They're not easy, you know. They're not easy. And when you see the great movies like you guys feature on your page, you know, like there's fucking. It takes a toll on people, you know. It takes a toll on the filmmakers, you know. The Francis Ford Coppola's articulated it very well, you know. A Raging Bull, you know, Martin Scorsese, you know, it could take a toll on you, but if you do it correctly, you know, it could sort of be cathartic, which is, you know, one of the things that comes up a lot in the making of Raging Bull, which I know you guys love. I have such reverence for it that if I did it, I would be shooting for the stars. I would be shooting for the stars. So I would definitely have to cut down the amount of podcasts I did while in production, but it might be good to do it so I didn't go totally insane.
Yeah, it'd be an outlet for you.
Exactly.
And you've had loads of really memorable roles on TV as well. Personal favorite of mine is your guest spot on the 5th season of Louis.
Yup, that was dope.
That's fucking amazing. I love that. And it's like a 22-minute episode or something like that, but there's a character arc in there for you. Great
episode. You should post something for that if you could find it, because I can't find the Louis stuff. But working with Louis C.K. on the show, Louis was dope. The part was dope. The writing was great. He's very, very talented. I hope he comes back and does some stuff soon. I think he's been served his time, and I think people should be able to learn from their mistakes. You know, there's people that have gotten away with violent crimes that went to prison for the same amount of time. We've put him in, behavioral jail. And obviously, you know, he has to reckon with that. But I think, you know, there has to be forgiveness for people and reconciliation for people. But working with him was awesome. It was freezing cold when we were shooting outside. I didn't meet him beforehand. I haven't seen him since. He was so trusting of me doing the part. And it was literally... that was cathartic for me, because what I was going through in my life personally at the time, to be able to have that outlet as an actor, it meant a lot to me. And it was an expression of my emotions. And I think that's why it resonated, and people fortunately still bring it up, because it was a personal, the emotions that I was relating to that character were very personal, and you don't always get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's outstanding. There's that credit roll scene right at the end when you're doing the knitting, which has been set up when you're tearing the apartment up looking for the gun. Oh, that's just so good. So funny.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, what I wanted to talk to you about is your current show on Netflix. That's Atypical. Yeah. Great show. And it's dealing with real-world problems that don't necessarily bleed into popular culture. How has that show had an impact or influence on you as an actor or a person even?
Well, working on Atypical has certainly raised my awareness and understanding of autism, how it affects for me, it's really, raised my awareness of how it affects the people around somebody who has the family, the friends, the people around the man or the woman or the kid, really, who is suffering from autism, because that's, the character I play. So I'll say that it's made me more aware and educated about the autistic community and what it means to be autistic. It's been a great time doing it. Season 4 premieres on Netflix July 9th. It's our last season. A lot of fans are disappointed it's our last season. I'm disappointed it's our last season, but it's the first time I was able to do a show where we get to go out knowing and going into the last season that it gets to wrap up. So you want things to go on forever, but I'd rather do that than have to wait to find out whether or not we're going to be able to go forward. So, it was great working with the cast. Jennifer Jason Leigh is one of my favorites. She was one of my favorites.
No, she's great.
She's another one who I've always considered one of my favorite actresses. And, get to work with her has been great. I have so much respect for her, and it's been cool to watch her and learn how she does her thing and watch her process. I really can't figure out her tricks. You know, she just is good. You know, it's like I
Yeah.
stare at her when we're working together, and like I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? And she's just a good actor, a really good actor. And you know, when she hits, you're like, you know, you feel it. So
Yeah.
she's been just cool, and she's this very funny person. Like, you know, I want to get her on my podcast because she's a lot funnier than I think. She's certainly funnier than her characters, and she's kind of shy. You know, when she's presented on doing publicity stuff, she's shy, but she's funny, and she got a lot of stories and history in show business. So she's cool, and working on Atypical has been something that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And like a real eye-opener as well. And I'm sure that a majority of people watching have got the same experiences as me.
Yeah.
It makes you think about things from a different perspective. And there's loads of emotion in that show as well.
Yep.
And some really funny moments.
Very funny. And the actors, the young actors, Kiera and Bridget, who play the kids, they're really talented. So I enjoy doing it.
Cool. Okay, so finally, Mike, got to ask you, what are your all-time top 5 favourite films?
My all-time top 5 favorite films in no particular order are Raging Bull, Rocky, Saturday Night Fever.
Amazing.
Raging Bull, Rocky, Saturday Night Fever, all-time favorite top 5 films of all time. The Shining, and it's hard to pick another one. I have to say The Godfather 1 and 2. That's one film. Not the Godfather.
It's a package.
Yeah, not The Godfather, like, you know, when it's out of sync, but the 1 and 2, you know, not The Godfather, what's in order. That's dope. They could still always, you know, I never can fully appreciate Godfather 3. It just doesn't work for me all the way, although there's some good things. But 1 and 2, I say, those are my 5. All of them, coincidentally, except for The Shining, starring Italian Americans. Don't know why. But that's who I gravitate to with my acting. So that were my top 5 today, and it's interchangeable. Just like if you ask me my top 5 hip hop albums.
Well, I'm surprised The Shining. I'm really surprised that didn't strike me as your kind of film.
Oh fuck yeah, that's my shit. Jack is my fucking dude.
Oh, it's amazing. So you've got a big month coming up in July. You've mentioned July 9th, 4th season of Atypical. And you've got some stand-up dates coming up in July, August as well. Is that right?
Stand-up dates coming up in July. I'm on the East Coast, and hopefully one day I'll get to make it abroad. But all the tickets are available at michaelrapaportcomedy.com. And you know, I love doing stand-up. It's the ultimate unedited performance. You're the actor, the director, you're the production designer, the sound engineer, the sound mixer. The boom operator, but ultimately, you know, everything falls on you. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying being back doing stand up. I love it. I love touring, and I'm looking forward to getting back on the road in July. You know, and if anybody's interested, I'm at michaelrapaportcomedy.com. I'll be coming to a city to talk shit near you.
Awesome, cool, and of course your podcasts. I Am Rapaport podcast that drops a couple of times a week. That's exclusively on Luminary. And you covered a lot on that show. You've got sports, music, films, politics. It's all in there. And I've listened from the start, Mike, and I absolutely love it.
Thank you. Dope, man. I appreciate it. So
check that out for sure. Mike, it's been amazing talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and good luck with everything in the future. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. Free all the right movies, Twitter. Free all the right movies. It's a great site. And I appreciate what you guys do. And you know, let me know when this is up, and you know, I'll post, repost, and all that shit. And I appreciate, you know, you guys, your enthusiasm for me and all things movies.
Mike, you're a gent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Stay in touch. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. So there you have it. Fan of all the right movies, Michael Rapaport in the flesh. Great guy. And at the end there, Mike was referring to our current spat with Twitter when he said free all the right movies. Some of you might know that our account's been suspended at the moment. We posted a movie clip with some music in it, and we've been suspended on copyright claims. That battle's ongoing, and we'll let you know when we've got an update. Check out Mike's stand-up, his Netflix show Atypical, new season coming out July 9th, and his podcast, the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast Live, and exclusively on Luminary. As for us, our latest podcast on classic and hit films is Midnight Run. That came out last week and is available everywhere, as are our most recent 20 episodes. The rest, along with a whole host of exclusive shows, are available only on Patreon, So go to patreon.com/alltherightmovies to support us and get access to hours and hours of great All the Right Movies content. Released today actually is our Patreon exclusive double feature podcast where we're talking about The Hunt for Red October and Crimson Tide, 2 blockbusters. Next week on our classic podcast, John, Westy and PI are bringing you the behind the scenes making of story of Stanley Kubrick's Vietnam War classic, Full Metal Jacket. And in the meantime, we're on Instagram at allthe_rightmovies. No Twitter at the moment, of course, but we do have a Facebook group. Search All the Right Movies there, look for the logo and sign up. Our website is alltherightmovies.com. You can contact us there, say hi or whatever. Keep it clean though. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of ATRM Meets. We hope you enjoyed it. Look out for the next episode and we'll let you know when that's available. Thanks everyone. Stay safe. See you soon.